Yeah, man. Greetings and blessed love, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Reasoning with the Rastapreneur podcast, finding spirituality in everyday conversation. I'm your host here, the Rastapreneur, and I'm joyed to have you join me on this journey while we discover how spirituality seems to weave its way into the very fabric of our daily lives. So today, episode 2 is all about overstanding the divide between spirituality and religion. Understanding the divide between religion and spirituality. See, a lot of people tend to intertwine them, but I'm here to tell you that they have two distinct concepts. And so we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the differences and we're going to talk about the similar, or I would say mutual influences they tend to have on our daily lives as we travel on the road. So, in today's episode of Overstanding the Divide Between Religion and Spirituality, we're going to take a deeper dive into, again, overstanding the differences and the similarities with both, because we know religion is what? What is religion? Religion is a structured set of beliefs, practices, traditions, rituals that centered around a higher power, a deity that defines the sign defines that faith, should I say, similar to the Ten Commandments of Christianity or the five pillars of Islam for the Islamic faith. And we know that religion, the foundation of it is based on sacred texts like the Holy Bible, like the Holy Quran, like the Torah, which provides us with a guide on how to live our lives spiritually and tells us like practices that we use, like prayer and worship services and sacraments and taking pilgrimages to reinforce our faith in our religion. But that's religion. So we know what ultimately what religion does to me is it's like a roadmap. I would say, like we use navigation, religion is like that map that guides us to how we should live our life according to how God set us to live it. And they got predetermined destinations and predetermined landmarks based on the religious practices. Where to me, spirituality is what? What is spirituality? Spirituality is that personal connection that you have to spirit, and then that personal connection that you have with the higher being, with God, with Jah, with the creator, with Allah, whatever it is that you name that you choose to call the universe. Some people use that. So it's the spirituality is our personal connection. Again, personal it's a personal journey is what I'm trying to say, and it's our individual connection with the Most High. So with religion, we're usually within a community that has a connection with the Most High, and then we follow the traditions, rituals, and principles of that, and then that's community. Whereas spirituality is each individual person taking their personal look at themselves, how they can personally grow from a spiritual perspective, and then figuring out their personal connection with the Most High, not the connection through the pastor or the imam or someone that's telling them something different. And so, to me, the big differences, is that religion is like it's fixed, where fixed and predetermined based on, again, how man say Jah said it to be, right? Man said Jah said it to be. Where spirituality to me is you talking to Jah yourself and getting that personal revelation, getting that individual connection with him, and allow him to reveal things for yourself to allow you to understand your purpose and your role in this life that we live in, because everybody has a different role. Jah has a different role for each and every individual. And so, to me, as we got into it, we're starting to saying, what's the difference between religion and spirituality? So I just told you, in my opinion, the definition of each one. Even I wrote down some notes here when I'm talking about spirituality, because I think spirituality allows you to have inner peace and self-discovery. So again, when I'm saying inner peace, it's not, you're not seeking an outside source for your peace. You're not seeking to go to the pastor or seeking to go to the priest for him to tell you what you should do. You're going within yourself, allowing your individual connection with the Most High to figure out, well, to allow Jah to for to reveal the revelation within your spirit for yourself on how you should live your path, and not a predetermined path by someone else or outside path. And it gives you, to me, a broader scope, because spirituality in a whole encompasses basically practices from all the religions into one, and taking you into a spiritual practice of again, about self, self discovery, and inner peace within self, where I believe, like, these are the notes that I wrote for religion. So I believe religion is what? It's a moral and ethical guideline. That's what I said. It's rules and behaviors on how you should conduct yourself to be, to live your better spiritual life on a daily basis. And so religion, what it ultimately does, I believe it provides a framework for us to understand our purpose in this world, to understand the nature of the divine, the nature of the Most High, the nature of Jah, nature of Allah, again, whatever name that you choose to call the nature of the universe, and how you live your life to be in alignment, with your spiritual, like with spirituality and with communal values. I mean, when they say communal values, mean community values, that it's not just about self. The way that you live is in line with self, but when aligned with your brother and sister, again, treating thy neighbor as I love thyself. So ultimately, those are the differences between spirituality and religion. So again, for those who don't know the definition, those are my definitions. No rude, or it's no, like, it's not written in stone or something like that. These are my definitions of what religion is and what spirituality is. And so we just talked about some of the differences. For me, I really want to also talk about some of the similarities, and not just really say similarities, but I call them mutual benefits, mutual influence is what I actually call them, between religion. So as we segment into segment number 2 of episode number 2, which is overstanding the divide between religion and spirituality, we get into not just the divide, but the mutual influence of both. So we know on this journey, we want to understand the differences between spirituality and religion. And we just talked about the differences, but we also, again, want to highlight and recognize that there are mutual influences for both. And so when some people say, well, religion. So I personally, as a religious person, I believe in a lot of ways religion is division, because the religion kind of tells us this side is right, my faith is right, and your faith is wrong. Um, it's not saying that, but in the way that people practice the faith, and then encounter someone that practices a different faith, it usually come across that way. Almost like Bloods and Crips, gangs, like my side, your side, where spirituality brings us into the oneness of each individual, and then allows us to want to again connect within a self, but then realize the role that we play within all mankind, and see how we can coincide, and live peacefully in harmony with all of not just mankind in terms of human, but in all of creation, in terms of the animals, in terms of the trees and nature and things like that, and the flowers and things like that. But I ultimately believe that they both provide us with a dynamic relationship with self and a relationship with God that allows us to reflect on the diverse approaches that we use to discover our role in this world, our purpose in this life, right? And so, in the similarity, I think, starts there, because we think about it. Most religious people, we're talking about it today's time, because we know in modern faith, we're starting to get more people to say, hey, I'm spiritual, not religious, And so even people that are everyday Christians that go to church every Sunday and things like that, they tend to nowadays, even myself as an Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Christian, I tend to say, yo, I live more by spirituality. I'm more of a spiritual person who finding a deeper connection, a deeper revelation within the faith that I live in, to see how I can coincide again with all of mankind, not just those within my faith, not that those would live within my faith or agree with my faith. And then I believe that religious rituals and practices are used within spirituality every day. So even those who say I'm not religious and I'm spiritual, well, it's a lot of religious practices, meditation and prayer and sacraments and uses of nature, connecting with nature, all those things. Some of these, religious practices and rituals are used within those who consider themselves spiritual but not religious today. And then also, spiritual individuals tend to incorporate very religious tradition. Like again, I just talked about it. And so if you realize that even the one who say I'm not religious, I'm in spiritual, it's a lot of religious practices, rituals, or traditions that they actually end up using to keep their spirituality going. So that's how, to me, even though we see the differences, they do have mutual influence and similarities in terms of how we use them or what they do for our lives. Because ultimately, they interplay. Whether it's religion and spirituality, they are unique to you. To like when I say this, it's like some people say, again, I'm religious, and well, I'm well, some people follow religion and but say I'm spiritual, right? But then they say, well, religion allowed me to see this, but then spirituality touched me here and it allowed me to get on this path. And then some people say I'm not religious at all, but I'm a spiritual person, and that's what allows me to stay on this path. And so while I'm saying it's different for each individual, and so while we understand the differences and while we understand the mutual influences that they have on each and every one of our lives, we also have to understand that they're going to work for each individual differently. Every one of our paths is different. It's just the way that John made it so. So remembering within the differences and within the mutual influences now, what we're starting to see, and that's why I want to touch on this, is a shift. I mean, a mass shift. And people, again, the I'm spiritual, not religious people. And so it's showing us the way that even us religious people, maybe we need to be open, is the point, to the way that we practice our religion, or the way that we practice spirituality, the way that we look and say, no, because a person is of a different faith or something like that, and realizing that maybe we need to be open to the way that we practice, not shifting from the original, not shifting away from God. Because anyone that know me, the way God said it to be is the way that I live my life. But I'm also now open to realize there are different practices and different things that I can pull from different religions, from Hinduism, from, because I'm going to get into it next as we segment to segment 3. But if those who don't know, a lot of the practices of Rastafari is based on Hinduism. Ones don't know these things. So it's like you can find different practices, traditions, and rituals from different religions and bring them into your spiritual practice. You don't necessarily have to look at yourself as that religion, or you even have to look at yourself as a religious person, but realizing that we can be open enough to realize that we can get um, more spiritual nourishment, is what I call it, from different religious practices that maybe we don't practice ourselves, or we might not even totally agree with the fullness of it, but it's certain practices that we can use and take into our daily lives. So, yeah, with that being said, this is episode number 2 of Reasoning with the Rastapreneur podcast, finding spirituality in everyday conversation. And episode 2 is about overstanding the divide between religion and spirituality. So we're discussing the differences and the mutual influences of religion and spirituality. So now, as we get into segment 3, we wanted to figure out, as always, how do we implement what we're talking about into our daily lives, into our modern lives. So in the segment now, it's like everyday conversation about everyday conversation around religion and spirituality, everyday conversation around religion and spirituality. So we know, as we talk about these in our daily lives, sometimes and oftentimes they create a divide because we have differences of faith, differences of even opinion, differences of practice. So as I just kind of talked about before, I want us to realize that even with differences, there are a lot of similarities. So in today's conversation, even in our daily lives, I want us to discuss how we navigate the discussions of religion and spirituality with our friends, family, and even strangers that we approach in everyday conversation. These topics are personal sometimes. We're often personal, and sometimes they can be contentious because people, my side is right, your side is right, and people have been practicing this and they wholehearted and they live this way, and it's everything that they believe in themselves. So what I want to talk about is for us to use this as an opportunity to realize the profound connection and understanding that we can gain by realizing the similarities of them all. The similarities, even though we have differences of religion and spirituality. Even there's differences of people that say, I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person, or differences of a person that say, I am a religious person. Spirituality is a part of religion. And so, again, there are different views, differences of opinion. But I think if we sit down and have an openness of heart, then we can realize, again, how they play a role in one another. And so while I'm discussing this, I want to discuss what? Spirituality, right? In religion and talk about being open. So what I'm trying to get to is for me, I want to highlight what me, I'm a Rasta, and I know you can tell by now from Rastafari Jam, see how me looking all that, I'm a Rasta man. But as a Rasta, as a Rastafari brethren, a mix of Rastafari liberty, the way we live the spiritual living is African based spirituality with Eastern Orthodox Christianity. So it's a mix of the ancient indigenous African spiritual traditions, ways, principles, and all those things, with a mix of Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Christianity, which we know His Imperial Majesty, we as Rastafari know on November 2nd, 1930, His Imperial Majesty was coronated under Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Christian ceremony, where he was coronated from the name Rastafari Mokenen to Haile Selassie I. Haile Selassie the first, as we call it. We say I, but I meaning the first. So, with them things being said, I want you to realize, even in I self, as a brethren who is Rastafari, which is my spiritual liberty, my spirituality is Rastafari, but my religion is Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo. It's from the other Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church, Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Christianity. Seen? So both spirituality and religion play a big part in the way that I personally live my life, the way I personally tried. And me tell you, I was joke about it recently now because you go to a Tesla station and one's just pull energy to recharge them cars. Well, that's how a lot of people see the eye. When we're talking about energy, there's the energy source to keep them in light. And when we're telling you the way that I stay in light is a mix of spirituality and religion. So even though we understand the divide between religion and spirituality, we have to understand the mutual influences that it have and how it impact it can together collectively they can impact our lives together in a way that allows us to be light, love, and light. You know what I mean? Allow us to be that source, because we know in Rastafari, we do meditation, we do Nyabingi chanting, Nyabingi drumming and chanting. We use the herb as a holy sacrament. So we medicate and then meditate so that Jah can come into our spirit and speak to we, you know. And so those right there are the spiritual practices of Rastafari. See? Spiritual practices, the spirituality of Rastafari. But in terms of the religious, as we just talked about, His Imperial Majesty. So we deal with Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Christianity. We deal with the teachings of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, right? So from a religious perspective, you tried it with the eye. Spiritual perspective, meditation. Naya bring your drumming and chanting, use of the herb, you know what I mean? Them things like that, you know what I mean? But then when it comes to religion, we have to check for it from what Jah tell me to check for it, and that's the Bible. It's checking for Jesus Christos. It's checking for His Imperial Majesty, Empress Menen. So we have the full balance thing, you know? So we check for from when we say Jah Rastafari, that's including that spirituality, the African-based spirituality of drumming and meditating and using of the herb, you know what I mean? Combined with religion, Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Orthodox Christianity, we'll say it that way, because they're not just Ethiopian, that's my tribe, but it's enough Orthodox Christianity, you know what I mean? But blending the two to create a oneness that we'll walk with, a oneness of spirituality, a spiritual nourishment that includes religious practices, principles, and all that, so that we can try a certain way and be light, so that Jah can use us as messengers, so that we can plant seeds and then let Jah water them thing and grow. And so again, as we discuss how Rastafari, like the emphasis of Rastafari on my life and my personal connection with Jah, how it's created the structure that I live by on a daily basis and that I use to help other people live and have spiritual balance. Because as we talked about last week on episode number 1, balance is the key to what we are talking about. So how do we maintain how do we maintain peace in the midst of chaos? Last week we talked about balance. So we're returning to balance. So what we want, even whether you're talking about spirituality or religion, is what we want, balance. And so I live Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo way. But what we're trying to get this each and every one is to find the beauty of finding what spirituality works for you on a daily basis. You see me looking to the side, come and have notes that me wrote. So between the structure of religion and your personal spirituality, we want you to find balance for yourself. Inner peace, what we had talked about earlier in this episode. We want you to find that peace for yourself between the road, the intersection between religion and spirituality. So as we forward, I leave a call to action for each and every one of the I and them this day. If your day now, your homework, as I told you, homework for last week, is to do what? I want you to reflect on your own personal experiences and consider how you can find and create the balance within yourself. Find the balance between using spirituality and religion. Whether you practice a religion, finding the religious practices at a different religious out of different religions that you can use and add to your spiritual journey and create spiritual nourishment within yourself that you feel balanced. So, what's that? I want you to ask yourself this question. How do you define your own spiritual or religious belief? I'm going to say it to you one more time. How you define your own spiritual and religious beliefs? Think about that. Leave them in the comments below. But more importantly, I want you to reflect on self, because again, this is about inner peace and self-discovery. This is about balance, right? Within oneself, alignment with oneself. So I want you to, one more time, the first question I want you to ask yourself is, how do you define your own spiritual and religious beliefs? Secondly, I want you to ask yourself, what are the ways that religion and spirituality enhance or enrich your life? What are the ways that religion and spirituality enrich your life, right? Again, drop it in the comments below. But more importantly, what I want you to do is to make this reflection on yourself, right? How do they enrich your life? And number 3, the question I want you to ask yourself is, how can you find balance between structured religious practice and personal spiritual exploration? I'm going to repeat that because I wrote this down specifically because I want this to be your homework as you leave. Again, leave your comments below to tell me this, but more importantly, how can you find the balance between structured religious practices and your personal spiritual exploration, right? So drop those in the comments below. We're going to have a conversation in the comment below. And I'll check y'all at episode number 3 of Reasoning with the Rastapreneur podcast, Finding Spirituality in Everyday Conversation. I want to thank everyone that tuned in today for episode 2, where we're overstanding the divide between religion and spirituality, overstanding the divide between religion and spirituality. And so as you leave with your homework of you defining your own defining what spirituality and religion means to you, and you figuring out the ways that religion and spirituality have enriched your life, and then you finding your balance between religious practices and your personal spiritual explanation. So exploration. So if you do this, I want each and every one of you, again, take time to understand the differences between religion and spirituality. What is religion? I talked about it in the beginning. It's a structured system of traditions, rituals, that are centered around a deity that define how you live in that faith. Where spirituality is more about your personal experience, your individual connection with the Most High, your individual connection with everything that the Most High created, and figuring out your personal purpose and your role, letting Jah reveal to you your purpose on this earth and how you can live a better spiritually balanced life. Because anyone know the eyes, I talked about it last week. I believe health is holistic. It is about physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional wholeness and balance. Physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional wholeness and balance. So wholeness and balance. Wholeness and balance. Balance is the key. Balance is the key to alignment, making sure you stay aligned with your values. Remember, the things that are acceptable for you according to your values and your beliefs, and then doing away with the things that are not aligned with your values. So, with that being said, when you think about the differences of religion and spirituality, I also want you to reflect and take time to realize that there are mutual influences in each one and how we can use each one to help us to maintain more spiritual balance in our lives. So again, thank you, each and every one. I appreciate you, and I give thanks for staying tuned for episode number 2 of Reasoning with the Rastapreneur podcast, finding spirituality in everyday conversation. So next week we're gonna keep this spiritual conversation going. I am joyed to have you join me on this journey. Again, while we discover how spirituality seems to weave its way into our everyday lives. So until the next time I leave the item, I leave you with love. Until the next time, I ask you to keep seeking inner peace, keep seeking self-discovery, keep seeking balance, keep seeking alignment. Seen? Yes, I. And until the next time I reach there, if you need something, leave something in the comments. Again, we're going to try to have a party in the comments and things like that. But I hope to catch you in episode number 3 of Reasoning with the Rastapreneur, finding spirituality in everyday conversation, where we're going to have a reasoning in every day. Every reason is what I'm saying. We're gonna have reason in each and every episode. Each reason leads us closer to the path of discovering how spirituality plays such a big role in the navigation of our lives. Spirituality is our navigation on how to live more peaceful, balanced, loving, aligned, positive, joyful lives, if that makes sense. So I would say this before I leave. I'm no teacher, preacher, no politician. Uh, I'm no doctor. I don't have any type of credit to say that I'm going to do anything for you to change. So I'm making no promises that anything that I said here will do anything, but I am hopeful that the words that I shared here, that the word sound that I shared here in this reasoning will touch one heart, at least one heart, and allow them to live in more balance, peace, and alignment within themselves. So to the next time I catch y'all on episode number 3, I say live in love and light, live in balance and alignment. And I say, Rastafari, I love, peace, and blessings to each and every one. Yeah, man. Love. Love one another. Spread love like a virus. Love is the solution for the pollution each and every time. One perfect love. Yes, I signing out. Episode number 2. Reasoning with the Rastapreneur podcast, finding spirituality in everyday conversation. Catch y'all next time. Episode number 2. Love is the solution. Love you. Peace. Love.